Hey everybody, AC here, and welcome back to another terrible theory. Uh, this time, I want to talk about one specific aspect of Breath of the Wild 2. I want to talk about that one scene where we see Link's arm, as he's wielding the Master Sword, get taken over by malice and get completely covered in malice. The scene that most likely leads to him getting that new nifty arm that can do all the cool things. And while that arm itself deserves a theory in its own right, right now I just want to talk about what this means for the Master Sword and what could possibly be the implication. What exactly was Ganondorf's aim with corrupting that arm specifically? So my theory is that he wasn't actually trying to corrupt Link in the first place. He wasn't even trying to obtain the Master Sword. I think what Ganondorf's aim was to get the darkness of demise out of the Master Sword. He was trying to cover the Master Sword in malice in order to pull out Demise's darkness. Because for loyal Zelda fans, they will remember that at the end of Skyward Sword, so much of Demise's darkness was sealed away within the Master Sword. A lot of Demise's darkness was sealed within it. And I believe that Ganondorf is trying to get that darkness out in order to help him revive. Now, what will this mean for the Master Sword? I think that when Ganondorf does this, he also ultimately ends up not necessarily destroying the Master Sword, but more so just damaging it beyond repair. It's not fully destroyed, it's just mostly damaged beyond repair and beyond help. And so we will get to see Fi tell Link that he needs to essentially reforge the Master Sword, make it better than it's ever been. That simply remaking it to be what it once was is not going to be enough to face Ganondorf now that he has Demise's abilities, and that a new Master Sword will have to be made using the old one as a base. So what would this mean for Fi, the spirit of the Master Sword? Well, most likely it means we'll have to say goodbye to Fi. Most likely when the new Master Sword is created, Fi's spirit will essentially be assimilated into the new Master Sword, and a new spirit will take its place as the spirit of the new Master Sword. So most likely we will see Fi. So what I believe is we will see Fi again in this game, but it will be for the last time. I think that is going to be kind of the driving force for our trips for our trips to the sky. I think that that is going to be our driving force. Our driving force for our trips to the sky is trying to find ways to remake the Master Sword, to make the new Master Sword. Whereas our trips below ground, perhaps our trips below ground and our trips on the ground will have their own little stories to deal with. And I can do a theory on that at another time. But I do think that, like, the surface, beneath the surface, and above the surface, I do think that each of those is going to have its own goal. There's one specific goal you're working towards on the surface, one specific goal you're working towards underground, one specific goal you're working towards in the sky. I think that each one has its own specific goal in mind, and you need to do all three before you can face Ganondorf. I think that in this game, I don't think you're going to be able to go and immediately face the final boss. Unlike in the first Breath of the Wild. I think that this one, they're going to go the Far Cry 5 route, and have it to where you can go anywhere in the world that you want, and face any section that you want in any order you want. But ultimately, you have to do all of that before you can. You have to complete each of the three sections before you can face the final boss. So, I think that that's how it's going to be handled. I personally think that that's how it's going to be handled in Breath of the Wild 2. It just makes a lot of sense to do it that way. But who knows? They might come up with something completely new that none of us had ever thought of. But in any case, I do think that we are going to be getting a completely new Master Sword. Now, some people might think the Master Sword is so iconic in the series. It's been part of the Zelda lore. It's been part of the Zelda lore for so long. There's no way they would get rid of it. There's no way they would change the story. There was no way they would change the story. Well, that's not entirely true, because the Master Sword was not part of Zelda lore at the beginning. It didn't become part of the Zelda lore until Ocarina of Time, I believe. Was it in A Link to the Past? No, I don't think so. No. It wasn't. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments if I'm remembering wrong. But it has been a thing in it has been a thing in pretty much every 3D Zelda title. In pretty much every 3D Zelda title. But for the 2D Zelda titles, no, not really. It has not really been a thing in 2D Zelda games. Let me think. Are there any 2D Zelda games that it actually was a part of? Not the Oracle games, not Link's Awakening, Link to the Past, the first two Zelda games, Triforce Heroes, Four Swords Adventures, Minish Cap, none of those. Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks. A Link Between Worlds. I do not believe it was in A Link Between Worlds. I do not believe so. I can't say for certain. A Link Between Worlds is one of the it is one of the few Zelda games I myself have not actually played. I have seen many a playthrough of that game. It looks fantastic. It looks absolutely fantastic. I just don't have a. I just never had a DS or 3DS, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, because I did not like the two screen duality. To be honest, it was not my thing. But in any case, um, the Master Sword has always been kind of a staple of 3D's. Has always been kind of a staple of 3D Zelda, but not so much 2D Zelda. But not so much 2D Zelda is my point. And I think that it is about time that Nintendo changed things up. The first Breath of the Wild game did so much to change up the existing formula of Zelda that I feel like having the sequel change it up even further is only natural. Not to mention, if you're going to do some drastic change, like get rid of the Master Sword, and replace it with a new, better version, I feel like the best way to do that is to have the first Master Sword be taken out by Demise's power. But this also has another implication. An implication that could rock the foundation of the Zelda formula itself. But could also open up new doors and new possibilities. I will be talking about that in the next theory. So I hope you all will watch that tomorrow. And in the meantime, let me know what you guys think. Do you think we're going to get some kind of new Master Sword? Some kind of new Master Sword to forge? I would love to keep this conversation going. Let me know in the comment box below what you guys think. What do you hope the new Master Sword is going to look like if we get it? And I guess that's going to be it. I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody.